Good to see you all again. Hope you had a great first session, 2 sessions. I am really excited to introduce this person, Cornelia Griggs from the class of 2001. I had the really great pleasure of teaching Cornelia, and I chaperoned a trip actually that my wife and I went on with a group of Sidwell Friends students to Italy, and there were quite a few memories that were shared there. I remember mostly we ate obscene amounts of gelato, right? Everywhere, every corner, we had to try every gelato store. But anyway, Cornelia is now a doctor, and one of the things that I was really excited to see is that she has written a new book, part of which we'll talk about here, a book about her experience being in an emergency room during 9/11, during COVID. It was right, 9/11 was when, 2001 was when, yeah, you graduate. So COVID, not 9/11. So let me read the official biography so that I don't make another mistake. Dr. Cornelia Griggs is a pediatric surgeon, critical care specialist, and assistant professor in surgery at Massachusetts General Hospital, Harvard Medical School. She recently published her first book, now a national bestseller, called The Sky Was Falling. Dr. Griggs is the surgical director of the MGH Pediatric Weight Center, as well as the quality and safety chair for the Division of Pediatric Surgery. She is a health services researcher with a focus on socially responsible surgery. Her previously published work covers urgent public health crises, including gun violence prevention, anti-racism, gender and socioeconomic disparities in surgery, and childhood obesity. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in clinical effectiveness at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. So you're not finished learning. You need another degree, right? Just need to get another degree. Dr. Griggs has a clinical focus in new surgical technologies, laparoscopic, thoracoscopic, and robotic innovation, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and medical education. Let's give a warm Sidwell welcome to Cornelia Griggs.
The Thomas Sidwell outfit just really works. Thank you to Brian Garman for that kind introduction. It is an honor and a thrill to be back at Sidwell today with all of you and to tell a bit of my own story, with hope that you will find something meaningful, illuminating, or at least mildly humorous in what I have to say. Since a lot of you probably don't like listening to speeches, and I certainly didn't when I was a student here, I've included some slides with embarrassing photos of myself and Brian Garman from back in the day, so you'll at least want to stick around for those. It is surreal to be back talking with all of you. It feels like it's only been moments, but also lifetimes ago since I sat in your seats, except the meeting room was not nearly as nice back then. It was like a big gymnasium with kind of ugly bleachers over there and over there and over there. And we had pagers, not cell phones. And I had a lot more acne and bad highlights, Exhibit A. Word to the wise, avoid sun-in. If you don't even know what that is, just trust me, you don't want to know. Think of this talk as a message from life's midpoint. I turned 40 last year. I know, that sounds so old. When I left this shrine to knowledge on Wisconsin Avenue, I was less than half that age. Time really does fly. That's why, while you're privileged to be a student here, try to take advantage of all the bountiful opportunities that Sidwell offers to each of its students, and then prepare yourself for a life of giving back. That's the essential fiber that strengthens this incredible school and its student body, you guys. I've tried hard to live my life the Sidwell way. As you heard at least partially in Brian Garman's introduction, I'm a pediatric surgeon at MGH in Boston. I realize some of you may not know what a pediatric surgeon does, but I take care of surgical problems in children from all ages, from routine appendicitis to premature newborns in the nursery to teenagers with gunshot wounds in the trauma bay. That's my day job. I'm also a researcher, a health policy advocate, an author, a mother, and the spouse of a surgeon, Exhibit B, all of which could easily be full-time jobs on their own. I just published my first book in March. It's called The Sky Was Falling, and it's a story about my time working in one of New York City's busiest hospitals during the first disastrous wave of COVID in the spring of 2020, not 2001. I'm really proud to say that the book recently hit the bestseller list. In my almost non-existent free time, I am also still a student, sort of like all of you, just a lot older. With the crushing amount of work you do, learning is something you are all great experts at. And the moment you leave this place, you'll begin to realize that during those years here, you've learned the most important things in life already. The overarching and urgent need to be kind and decent, the primacy of friendship, the responsibility to contribute to the betterment of society, and the joy of giving back as much as you possibly can. These are the lessons that will sustain you throughout your life. I am now getting my master's degree in public health, another degree, yes, a decision inspired by watching the government fumble the COVID pandemic so badly. I stayed up too late last night, true story, finishing my most recent problem set for a class I'm taking in advanced decision science. Hint, it's a lot of math. Most weeks, I struggle to find the time to complete my coursework. On those nights when I have to stay up an extra 2 to 3 hours after I put my kids to bed to finish another problem set, I silently question my own sanity and the life choices that brought me to this point. What was I thinking adding a master's to my plate? Who am I really trying to impress? I am always doing the most, and I've been this way since I was here. So I'm guessing it is a quality many of you share. It is both wonderful and totally, utterly exhausting. My time at Sidwell very much established my way of being, so I thought it might be fun and even kind of interesting for you to hear the story of how I came to be this way, the role Sidwell played in shaping me, and how I believe this school has equipped me to improve life for people in our country now and hopefully for my next 40 years. My freshman year at Sidwell, Exhibit C, I was a new kid and I didn't know anyone. I was leaving a middle school that I loved and a close group of friends, but Sidwell offered the complete academic package and countless extracurriculars that appealed to me. Two really important things happened to me freshman year. I had Melanie Fields as my biology teacher, and I met Eliza Orleans, my best friend in the world to this day. I'll start with Melanie Fields. That's her picture up there if you guys didn't know her. She was an icon of the science department at Sidwell for over 3 decades. It was in her biology classroom that I discovered a deep love of science, and I was doggedly determined to impress her. Mrs. Fields was tough but fair. Most importantly, her classroom was a haven for those of us who didn't easily fit in elsewhere. And as a new kid freshman year, I desperately needed that space. I remember feeling extremely proud of myself in her classroom. It was towards the end of first semester, and I was thrilled to have aced some of her hardest tests. I was on track for a solid A. Our final project before break was a group project, and I had strategically recruited a group of 3 boys as my group partners. They were smart enough, but well-known slackers. I was thrilled because it meant I could do the entire project by myself, unbothered. My partners were all too happy to let me handle the entire assignment in peace. A week later, I handed in a stellar project summary, a report I was confident would secure another A. When I got the final grade back, I was upset and surprised, A-. My group partners were elated, but I was pissed. I knew our project was the best in the class. I'd seen the others toiling away in lab, but I had included more detail and more research than anybody else. Mrs. Fields wrote in my final comments, the ones my parents would see, Cornelia handed in an excellent report for the final group project, but it was obvious she did it all by herself. Cornelia will never be a great scientist unless she learns to delegate. All the best science happens in teams. Woof! Big truths to swallow for a high school freshman, a control freak, and a perfectionist. As a surgeon, my operating room cannot function without my anesthesia colleagues, my scrub techs, my circulating nurses, and the trainees I teach at MGH. After that project freshman year, I vowed to never discount the importance of including and inspiring the people you work with, especially when it comes to the scientific endeavor. Diversity of opinion matters. And I literally cannot do all of my work by myself. My patient's safety relies upon each member of my team functioning at their best. Ever since that biology group project, I've strived to become a better team player, even when I'm not the leader. Mrs. Fields was also the first teacher who ever suggested that I might consider a medical profession. I have no doctors or medical people in my family at all, but Mrs. Fields' love of neuroscience was infectious and inspiring. It is because of her that I signed up for my first Candy Striper volunteer experience at Sibley Hospital. Candy Stripers, we wore like an actual red and white uniform to volunteer in the hospital. It was very vintage. But I worked in the emergency room in the same-day surgery department, and the seed of becoming a doctor was planted. In so many ways, my path to medicine started right there in freshman biology, and I have Mrs. Fields to thank for that. Pivotal life event number 2 was just as important. I met my best friend, Eliza Orleans, and she's sitting right there. Eliza was one of those girls at Sidwell that everybody knew about. She was popular, beautiful, sophisticated, smart, and opinionated, still is today. Even though she was just a freshman, senior boys would invite Eliza to hang out while they moved their cars to the upper school parking lot. The ultimate sign of social status at the time. But she was no ditz. If she didn't like you, you would know it. Needless to say, I was more than a little intimidated by her, but we found each other because of a shared love of being on the right side and fighting injustice. Eliza and I had both joined Horizon, the school newspaper, and became young cub reporters, digging for juicy news stories to show the administration how student voices needed to be heard and prioritized. That keen sense of justice propelled us both into professions where we dedicate ourselves to the country's most vulnerable and underserved communities. Eliza is a career public defender in Manhattan. We both see the very worst of humanity as part and parcel of our daily work. Rape, child abuse, gun violence, Eliza in the courtroom, and me in the operating room. Yet our shared sense of compassion and love of humanity keep us both working routinely overnight, forgoing sleep to do tough jobs, ones that we believe in. Sidwell instilled in us the importance of commitment, altruism, and perseverance. I'm not gonna lie and make it seem like Eliza and I have all the answers at age 40. Our friends who went into finance all have second and some third homes by now. And by any standard, neither of us have anything to complain about financially. But sometimes I'm jealous of our peers who sought out wealth and high net worth straight out of college. Other days, I think those friends are jealous of me and Eliza for devoting our lives to where the rewards come from helping others. The students who graduate from Sidwell leave knowing that making a lot of money is not as important as living your life with a keen sense of purpose. There might be a few select jobs where you don't have to choose, but in most, you're sacrificing a bit of one for the other. I won't pretend to have all the right answers there, especially because what I admire most about your generation and those coming up behind us is that you're onto something. Your job doesn't have to define who you are, but choosing a job that you truly love helps. I think Eliza would agree. But Eliza and I are connected by much more than our jobs. Eliza is the kind of best friend nobody deserves because she's that great. Unflinchingly loyal, my biggest cheerleader, we've seen each other through every phase of life and held each other's hand through life's wins and losses. Once, after a devastating breakup in middle school, I spun into a bad depressive episode. Not middle school, medical school, sorry. I felt the world, also plausible. I felt the world had turned on me, and I threatened to end our friendship. I don't even remember why, but I just wanted to scorch all the earth around me and start my life over. The point is, she chased me down, and I'll never forget what she told me. Boyfriends will come and go, but I will never stop being your friend, even if you try to cut me out. You can't get rid of me. We've had fights since then, sure, but Eliza has been a constant in my life ever since freshman year English class, and I can't imagine my life without her. She's the one who nominated me to give this talk today and is constantly reminding everyone around how proud she is of me, and I do the same for her, including helping to campaign and fundraise for her when she ran for public office in New York City. Talk about having guts. It took pure courage for Eliza to run for Manhattan DA. The lesson here is that some of the people sitting next to you are lifer friends, so treasure and nurture those friendships, even over your romantic ones. Exhibit D, sophomore year. Two big things happened. I got my driver's license, and I met a teacher who didn't think my writing was very good. My English teacher sophomore year didn't like my essays and gave me my first ever C+ on a midterm. I was devastated. I felt unfairly judged. I agonized over getting that bad grade, convinced my record and chances for college acceptance were forever blemished. I was wrong on that front. But learning how to work for a teacher who doubted my abilities was a valuable, if painful, life lesson. Never let one person determine your sense of self-worth. You can't make everyone like you, and as I've grown older, I've become much more comfortable with the fact that some people won't. In surgical residencies, some of my teachers were downright nasty. One even had the gall to joke in front of me in the operating room, there are only two kinds of women surgeons, those who shouldn't be surgeons and those who shouldn't be women. Hard to believe, I know. I'm glad to say that surgeon is now retired and obsolete. But I still had to learn to operate with him even though I hated his guts. Some teachers, you take what you need and you move on, vowing that you'll never become like them. Driving. Back then, drinking at high school parties was a major threat. I made the crucial decision that I was not going to drink alcohol in high school. Maybe it was having several alcoholics in my family, but I just didn't get the appeal. And I was terrified of getting in a crash or watching one of my friends get hurt. So I was the permanent designated driver. I probably got invited along more as a result. But I also never woke up in the morning forgetting what happened, regretting my choices, or with a pounding headache. I'm forever grateful to my younger self for making that decision. Now, at age 40, I have too many friends who struggled with substance use or have family who did, and what seems like harmless youthful fun can creep and take an ugly toll by middle age, or sooner. I've never once regretted choosing to abstain. Please don't give substances power over your life. I've seen how easily they can ruin one. Junior year was the college pressure cooker year. I remember feeling enormous, oh yeah, this is an Italy trip. We're getting there soon. So junior year was the college pressure cooker year, and I felt enormous pressure to put together a killer college resume. So many of us were trying to stack our applications with APs that I elected to take AP US History over the summer with this new hotshot teacher at Sidwell named Brian Garman. He was hilarious, borderline disturbingly obsessed with Walt Whitman, and was clearly born to teach. His classroom made me love US history so much that I majored in history in college despite being pre-med. So beloved was Brian Garman that we begged him and his wife to chaperone a group to Italy at the end of the summer. There were 6 of us. Here's the exhibit. It was an incredible and very sweaty trip. Italians have controversial views towards air conditioning. For 2 weeks we laughed and ate a ton of pasta and gelato and didn't think about college at all. But when the summer was over, we were back in the grind of SAT prep and more. Junior year, I remember having to make a big decision about the school musical. I genuinely loved theater and singing, but I was never bound to do it professionally. When I got cast in a lead role, I was devastated to learn that Tech Week would also be the same week as many of the AP level exams. But I decided to power through and took the part. I had to get really good at time management to make it all work. But I think sticking with the activities that genuinely brought me joy kept me sane during that year. I continued to do plays and musicals at Harvard, even though I was pre-med. And I even did musicals in medical school. Reed can attest to that too. Theater kids are my people, so don't abandon your hobbies for activities that you're doing just for burnishing your resume. You will never put as much of your heart and soul into something you're doing just to check a box, and the admissions committees can tell. Theater also gave me permission to act like a goof in front of the entire school, which brings me to teenage embarrassment. In high school, I was overly preoccupied with the idea that everyone was watching me, noticing me, and my worst fear was to do something embarrassing. Shame is a terrible emotion. When you leave high school, your brain chemistry changes literally and figuratively, and you realize nobody cares about you that much. They're all too caught up in their own little worlds. It is both a liberating and lonely realization. You don't have to be who you were in high school. You don't always have to fit in with or look like or sound like your peers. No matter what you're into, there is a community of people for you, people who think your likes and hobbies are wonderful and your jokes are hilarious. There's a whole world of social acceptance beyond these walls. So if you haven't found your people yet, give it some time. Senior year is when I finally hit my stride here at Sidwell. I was editor-in-chief of the newspaper, co-president of chorus, co-captain of varsity volleyball, lead in the musical, and more, always doing the most. And I applied early to my dream college, Harvard. I was so anxious about it that my mother uncharacteristically allowed me to stay home from school to wait for the mail. I wouldn't have been able to concentrate at school anyhow, and yes, we got letters in the mail. When the mail came and a big fat acceptance package arrived, I wept. But they were not tears of joy. They were tears of relief. I'd put so much pressure on myself throughout high school. I would have been deeply devastated to be rejected. When I collected myself, I made a promise to my future self that still holds true. I promised myself I would never stake my sense of self-worth on one institution ever again. The college or schools you attend do not define you, and they do not make you successful or special just because you attended. Institutions do not love you back. People do. Life happens when you stop worrying about what other people, especially your parents, want or expect you to do, and you follow your gut instead. Do the thing that scares you. The summer after my junior year of college, I signed up for a Peace Corps type experience called College Corps in South Africa, then a major center for HIV and tuberculosis. I wanted to test what I was made of, if I could really handle going to medical school. I did a homestay in the flats outside of Cape Town and lived with a family of very little means that had been displaced from their native area because of racial hatred. It was in South Africa where I delivered my first baby, did ride-alongs with EMS in vans through townships, and realized I wasn't just some sheltered private school kid. It was that experience that solidified my decision to apply to medical school. The people who were my classmates at Sidwell have uniquely devoted their lives to projects and efforts that highlight the very best of humanity. Of any group I've been affiliated with, my Sidwell classmates make me the proudest and most humble. Where you go to college does not define you, but how you treat people will. The kids in school that are mocking and mean to others, even if they seem cool now, trust me, that behavior doesn't age well. If you feel nerdy and invisible now, your time in the sun is coming. Trust me on that one too. Go to a school where you'll be known and wanted. If you become a parent and it's time to send your kids to school, look for that sense of community. No matter what your parents say, achievement does not equal success. The theme of our day today is Let Your Life Speak. My interpretation of this theme makes me think of some great advice I got from my mother, a career journalist. She wrote me a postcard and left it in my bedroom on a really bad day. And all it said was, the best way to get back at life is to write a great book. I'm not sure I did. I am sure I tried to let my life speak in order to tell a compelling story about how people struggled through one of the worst events in our lives, the pandemic. And that, in essence, is the big lesson this school has taught me in my first 40 years. You have to struggle through, complete the really tough assignments, and pull people up behind you. If you manage to do this, we will all have the resources we need to struggle through the next 40 years, savoring what is really important for a good life and friendships that make a good life possible. Thank you, everyone here at Sidwell and Eliza and all you students and this incredible institution, the Sidwell Friends School.